What if I told you that one of the biggest reasons people delay their desires is because they talk about them too much? Most people think sharing their dreams will make them stronger. They believe announcing their plans will bring them closer to success. But often the opposite happens. The moment a desire is exposed to doubt, criticism, or the need for approval, its power begins to weaken in your mind. There is a quiet power that very few people understand. It is the power of knowing without needing proof, the power of believing without needing validation, the power of carrying a vision so deeply within yourself that no outside opinion can shake it. Every great transformation begins in the unseen. Before a building appears, it exists in the mind. Before a tree breaks through the ground, it develops roots in darkness. Before your desire becomes a visible fact, it must first become a living reality within your consciousness. Today, we are going to explore why silence is one of the greatest allies of manifestation, why protecting your vision matters, and how keeping your desire sacred can accelerate its appearance in ways you never imagined. So stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could completely change the way you approach your dreams. Have you ever noticed how exciting a new desire feels when it first enters your mind? In that moment, it feels alive, possible, and full of potential. You can almost see it, almost touch it. Yet many people make a subtle mistake at this stage. Instead of nurturing the desire within themselves, they immediately begin talking about it. They tell friends, family members, co-workers, and even strangers about what they plan to achieve. While this may seem harmless, there is a hidden danger in exposing a dream before it has taken root in your consciousness. A desire is much like a seed. When a seed is first planted, it requires protection. It develops beneath the surface where no one can see it. The process is invisible, yet extremely important. If someone constantly digs up the seed to check whether it is growing, they interrupt its development. In the same way, constantly discussing your desire can interfere with the mental and emotional state necessary for its fulfillment. Instead of allowing the idea to mature within you, you begin seeking reactions from others. The problem is not that people are intentionally trying to stop you. The problem is that most people respond from their own limitations, fears, and experiences. They evaluate your dream based on what they believe is possible rather than what you are capable of becoming. Even a simple comment such as, "That sounds difficult," or, "Are you sure that's realistic?" can plant a seed of doubt in the mind of someone who has not yet fully accepted their desire as a reality. The moment doubt enters, your attention begins to shift. Instead of living in the feeling of already having what you desire, you start defending it. You start explaining why it can happen. You start looking for evidence to prove that your dream is possible. Yet the creative process does not require you to convince other people. It requires you to convince yourself. The only acceptance that truly matters is your own. Many people unknowingly trade inner conviction for external validation. They feel excited about a goal, but before they have established certainty within themselves, they seek approval from the outside world. They want others to agree with them, encourage them, and confirm that their vision makes sense. But when your confidence depends upon another person's agreement, your confidence becomes unstable. It rises when they support you and falls when they question you. True faith cannot be built on the opinions of others. It must be built within. There is tremendous power in keeping a desire private while it develops. Silence creates space for belief to grow stronger. When you are not constantly talking about what you want, you can focus on experiencing it internally. You can imagine it fulfilled. You can feel the satisfaction of already being the person you wish to become. You can cultivate certainty without interruption. In that quiet space, the desire stops being a distant hope and begins to feel like a present reality. This does not mean you should never discuss your goals. It simply means that your desire should first become firmly established within your own consciousness. It should become so natural to you that no opinion, criticism, or circumstance can shake your conviction. When you reach that point, you are no longer seeking approval because you already possess something far more valuable knowing. Think about the most confident people you have ever met. They rarely feel the need to constantly announce what they are doing. They move with calm assurance. Their energy is directed toward being rather than explaining. They understand that results are more powerful than promises. They allow their actions and outcomes to speak on their behalf. Your desire deserves the same protection. Rather than broadcasting it to the world, nurture it within yourself. Give it your attention, your imagination, and your faith. Let it grow in the fertile soil of your consciousness. Refuse to surrender its power to doubt, criticism, or the need for validation. Sometimes the fastest path to manifestation is not speaking more about what you want. It is speaking less, believing more, and remaining faithful to the vision you have already accepted within. The quieter you become about your desire, the easier it becomes to hear the voice of certainty within yourself. And from that certainty, remarkable things begin to unfold. One of the most powerful shifts a person can make is moving from wanting a desire to assuming it is already fulfilled. Most people spend their days hoping, wishing, waiting, and wondering when their dreams will finally arrive. They constantly look at their current circumstances and use them as evidence for what is possible. If they do not see immediate results, they become discouraged. If conditions appear unfavorable, they begin to doubt. Yet the creative process works in an entirely different way. It begins not with what you see on the outside, but with what you accept on the inside. To live from the end means to mentally and emotionally occupy the state of already having what you desire. Instead of thinking about the desire as something that may happen someday, you begin to think from the perspective of the person who has already experienced its fulfillment. This is not about pretending in a superficial way. It is about shifting your identity. It is about allowing yourself to feel the naturalness of your wish fulfilled until it becomes more familiar than the old story you have been telling yourself. Most people live from their current circumstances. They look at their bank account before deciding whether they can feel wealthy. They look at their relationships before deciding whether they are loved. They look at their achievements before deciding whether they are successful. As a result, their inner world is constantly reacting to the outer world. But true transformation begins when the inner world becomes the cause rather than the effect. Imagine a person who desires financial abundance. Every day they check their circumstances and see limitations. Because they see limitations, they think thoughts of lack. Because they think thoughts of lack, they continue to feel worried and uncertain. The cycle repeats itself over and over again. Now imagine that same person choosing a different approach. Instead of focusing on what is missing, they begin to identify with the feeling of financial freedom. They start thinking from the mindset of someone who is already secure, capable, and abundant. Even before physical evidence appears, their relationship with life begins to change. This is why silence is so important. When you truly live from the end, there is less need to constantly discuss your desire. The person who knows something is already theirs does not feel compelled to seek reassurance from others. Their confidence comes from within. They are not waiting for the world to give them permission to believe. They have already accepted the reality of their desire in consciousness. Silence protects this new state. It allows you to remain focused on the feeling of fulfillment rather than becoming distracted by external opinions. Every time you share your dream with someone, there is the possibility that their doubts, fears, or skepticism will pull your attention back to the old state. But when you keep your vision sacred, you give yourself the opportunity to deepen your assumption without interference. Living from the end also requires persistence. There may be moments when appearances seem to contradict your desire. There may be days when nothing appears to be changing. This is where many people give up. They return to the old habit of judging reality by appearances. Yet appearances are often reflections of past assumptions. They are not necessarily indicators of what is coming next. Your task is not to force the outer world to change. Your task is to remain faithful to the state you have chosen. Continue feeling the satisfaction of fulfillment. Continue identifying with the version of yourself who already possesses the desire. Continue returning to that state whenever doubt attempts to pull you away. Over time, something remarkable happens. What once felt unnatural begins to feel normal. The new identity becomes familiar. The desired state becomes your dominant state of consciousness. And because your outer world reflects the state you consistently occupy, reality begins to reorganize itself in ways you may not have anticipated. The secret is simple, yet profound. Stop living as someone who is waiting. Stop thinking of your desire as distant. Instead, quietly step into the feeling that it is already accomplished. Carry that feeling throughout your day. Let it influence your thoughts, your reactions, and your expectations. Live from the end in silence. Not because you are hiding your dream, but because you are becoming it. The less attention you give to appearances, and the more attention you give to the fulfilled state, the faster your desire can take shape in the world around you. What you consistently assume within yourself will eventually become the reality you experience. There is a conversation taking place within you every single day. It happens so naturally that most people are barely aware of it. From the moment you wake up until the moment you fall asleep, you are constantly talking to yourself. You replay memories, imagine future events, interpret circumstances, and silently react to everything happening around you. These inner conversations may seem insignificant, but they are among the most powerful forces shaping your life. Most people pay careful attention to the words they speak aloud, yet they give very little attention to the words they repeatedly speak within themselves. They may appear confident on the outside while secretly entertaining thoughts of fear, doubt, and limitation on the inside. They may talk about success publicly while privately questioning whether they are capable of achieving it. What truly influences the direction of life is not merely what is spoken aloud, but what is consistently accepted and repeated within consciousness. Every inner conversation carries a feeling. It is not simply a collection of words. It is an experience. When you repeatedly tell yourself that life is difficult, that opportunities are scarce, or that your dreams are impossible, those thoughts generate corresponding feelings. Over time, those feelings become familiar. They form a state of mind that influences your behavior, your expectations, and even the way you perceive the world around you. Many people unknowingly spend years rehearsing failure in their imagination. They imagine problems before they happen. They anticipate rejection before it occurs. They argue with people mentally before conversations ever take place. They relive painful experiences again and again. Each of these inner conversations strengthens the very conditions they wish to escape. The mind becomes occupied with what is unwanted, and the emotional energy attached to those thoughts keeps them alive. Consider what happens when a person desires success, but constantly thinks, what if it doesn't work out? They may not realize it, but they are mentally identifying with failure. They are experiencing the emotional reality of disappointment before any disappointment has occurred. Day after day, they rehearse a future they do not want. Then they wonder why confidence feels difficult to maintain. The good news is that inner conversations can be changed. The same imagination that has been used to reinforce limitation can be used to create freedom. The same mind that has been repeating stories of struggle can begin telling a new story. This transformation does not happen by force. It happens through conscious awareness and deliberate practice. Imagine that your desire has already been fulfilled. How would you speak to yourself then? How would your inner dialogue sound if you knew beyond all doubt that everything was working in your favor? You would not be asking when it will happen. You would not be worrying about whether you are worthy. You would not be constantly searching for signs. Your inner conversations would reflect confidence, gratitude, and certainty. Instead of saying, I hope things improve, you would naturally think everything is unfolding perfectly. Instead of saying, I wonder if I can do it, you would think, I am fully capable. Instead of dwelling on obstacles, you would focus on solutions. These new conversations may feel unfamiliar at first, but with persistence they begin to create a new state of consciousness. This is why silence can be such a powerful ally. When you are not constantly discussing your desires with others, you become more aware of the conversations happening within yourself. You begin to recognize that the most important dialogue is not taking place in the outer world. It is taking place in your own mind. The words you repeatedly accept internally have a far greater influence than the opinions of people around you. Your inner conversations should become aligned with the reality you wish to experience. Speak to yourself as the person you desire to be. Think from success rather than about success. Think from abundance rather than about abundance. Think from fulfillment rather than about fulfillment. Allow your mental dialogue to reflect the life you are choosing rather than the circumstances you are trying to leave behind. Every great change begins with a change in identity, and identity is largely shaped by the conversations you have with yourself. The voice within can either keep you connected to old limitations or guide you into an entirely new reality. The choice is made moment by moment, thought by thought, conversation by conversation. So pay attention to what you are silently saying throughout the day. Those unseen words are not meaningless. They are instructions. They are seeds. They are creating expectations, shaping beliefs, and influencing the future you are moving toward. Change the conversation within, and in time, the world around you will begin to reflect that change. One of the greatest challenges people face on the journey toward fulfilling their desires is learning how to remain faithful when there is no visible evidence of progress. It is easy to believe when everything seems to be going your way. It is easy to feel confident when circumstances appear favorable. But true faith is revealed in those moments when the outer world shows you something completely different from what you wish to experience. The ability to ignore appearances and remain loyal to your inner vision is what separates those who persist from those who give up too soon. Most people have been conditioned to trust only what they can see, hear, and touch. They believe that circumstances determine reality. If the bank account is low, they assume lack is their reality. If opportunities have not appeared, they assume success is far away. If relationships seem troubled, they assume love is missing from their lives. In other words, they allow appearances to define their state of mind. Yet appearances are often nothing more than reflections of previous thoughts, assumptions, and beliefs. They are the results of what has already been accepted in consciousness. Think of a mirror. When you look into a mirror, You do not try to change the reflection directly. You understand that the reflection follows the image standing before it. If you want the reflection to change, you must first change what is being projected. Life operates in a similar way. The outer world often mirrors the state you have been occupying internally. When you understand this principle, you stop treating circumstances as permanent facts and begin seeing them as temporary reflections. This understanding gives you a tremendous sense of freedom. Instead of reacting emotionally to every condition you encounter, you realize that appearances do not have the final word. Just because something is visible today does not mean it must remain that way tomorrow. Every condition is capable of changing. Every situation is capable of transformation. The question is whether you will remain faithful to your chosen vision long enough for that transformation to occur. Many people abandon their desires because they become impatient. They begin with enthusiasm and confidence, but when results do not appear immediately, doubt begins to creep in. They start questioning whether they are doing something wrong. They wonder whether their dream is truly possible. Soon, they return their attention to current circumstances, and those circumstances once again become the dominant influence on their thinking. Faith requires a different approach. Faith means continuing to identify with your desired reality even when appearances suggest otherwise. It means refusing to allow temporary conditions to dictate your inner state. It means holding on to your vision when there is no visible proof that anything is changing. This is not blind optimism. It is a conscious decision to trust in the creative power of your assumptions rather than the limitations of present appearances. Consider a farmer who plants seeds in a field. After planting them, the farmer does not dig them up every day to see whether they are growing. He understands that growth is taking place beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. If he judged the success of the seed solely by what he could see immediately, he would conclude that nothing was happening. Yet beneath the soil, a process has already begun. Your desires often develop in the same way. There may be periods when no evidence appears. There may be moments when circumstances seem unchanged. But unseen movement does not mean no movement. The absence of visible results does not mean the process has stopped. It simply means that what has been established internally is still making its way into external expression. This is why persistence is so important. Every time you choose faith over fear, you strengthen your connection to the reality you desire. Every time you refuse to react negatively to appearances, you reinforce your new state of consciousness. Little by little, your conviction grows stronger than the evidence before your eyes. The world is constantly changing. Conditions shift. Opportunities emerge. Unexpected events occur. What seems impossible today can become reality tomorrow. Therefore, do not allow temporary appearances to persuade you that your desire is unattainable. Stay loyal to the vision you have accepted within yourself. Continue feeling the reality of its fulfillment. Continue thinking from the end rather than from current circumstances. Ignore appearances and remain faithful. The visible world is always catching up to the assumptions you consistently hold. When you refuse to be shaken by what you see and remain committed to what you know within, you create the conditions for remarkable transformation. Faith is not waiting for evidence before you believe. Faith is believing so completely that evidence eventually has no choice but to appear. There is a quiet confidence that comes from truly knowing who you are and what you are creating. It is different from excitement, and it is certainly different from the need to impress others. It is the confidence of someone who no longer feels compelled to explain, defend, or constantly talk about their desires. They understand that the most powerful proof is not found in words but in results. This is why one of the greatest principles you can embrace is to let results be your announcement. Many people fall into the habit of talking about what they are going to do long before they do it. They announce every goal, every plan, and every intention. They repeatedly tell others about the future they hope to experience. While there is nothing inherently wrong with sharing a vision, problems arise when talking about the desire becomes a substitute for living from it. Sometimes people become so focused on discussing their dreams that they neglect the inner work required to bring those dreams into reality. Words can create temporary satisfaction. When someone shares a goal and receives encouragement, they often feel a burst of motivation. But motivation alone is not transformation. External praise cannot replace inner conviction. Approval from others cannot take the place of faith in your own vision. In fact, if your confidence depends on the reactions of others, it becomes fragile. The moment support disappears, uncertainty begins to take its place. True confidence operates differently. It does not seek constant validation. It does not require an audience. It does not need everyone to understand the journey. Instead, it remains focused on the desired end. It quietly continues to assume the reality of success regardless of what others think. This kind of confidence is powerful because it is rooted within rather than dependent upon external circumstances. Think about the most successful transformations that occur in life. They often happen gradually and silently. A person works on themselves day after day. They change their thinking. They change their self-concept. They develop new habits. For a while, nothing appears different on the surface. Then, one day, the results become impossible to ignore. People suddenly notice the change, but they do not see the countless moments of inner growth that made it possible. This is why silence can be such a valuable practice. Silence allows you to direct your energy inward rather than outward. Instead of seeking recognition for what you intend to do, you focus on becoming the person who naturally experiences the desired outcome. Instead of explaining your future, you embody it. Instead of trying to convince others, you strengthen your own belief. There is also wisdom in understanding that not everyone will understand your vision. Some people may doubt it. Others may question it. Some may unintentionally project their own limitations onto your dreams. If you constantly expose your desires to outside opinions, you risk allowing those opinions to influence your state of mind. But when you remain centered in your own conviction, you preserve the mental and emotional atmosphere necessary for growth. Letting results be your announcement does not mean becoming secretive out of fear. It means becoming secure enough that you no longer need immediate recognition. It means trusting the process. It means understanding that your responsibility is not to make others believe in your vision. Your responsibility is to believe in it yourself. As you continue to live from the end, maintain empowering inner conversations, and remain faithful despite appearances, changes begin to occur. Opportunities emerge unexpectedly. Circumstances shift. New connections form. What once seemed distant begins moving closer. These changes often happen in ways you could not have predicted. The outer world starts reflecting the assumptions you have consistently held within. Eventually, the results arrive. What was once only a vision becomes a fact. What was once an assumption becomes an experience. At that point, there is no need for lengthy explanations. The evidence speaks for itself. The transformation becomes visible. The success becomes undeniable. The life you quietly nurtured within begins expressing itself without effort. Remember, the goal is not to impress people with promises. The goal is to create a reality that reflects your highest assumptions. Words may inspire, but results demonstrate. Announcements may capture attention for a moment, but fulfillment creates lasting impact. So continue moving forward with quiet confidence. Protect your vision. Trust your inner knowing. Stay faithful to the reality you have accepted within. And when the time comes, allow your life itself to become the message. Allow your transformation to become the proof. Allow your results to be your announcement. And let the world witness what unwavering belief can accomplish. As we come to the end of this message, remember this simple truth. Your desire does not need the world's permission to become real. The moment you accept it within yourself, the creative process begins. Not when others believe in it, not when circumstances improve, not when evidence appears. It begins the moment you assume it is already yours. Stop measuring your progress by what you see today. The unseen always comes first. Every visible result was once an invisible assumption held faithfully in the mind of someone who refused to give up. Protect your vision. Guard your inner conversations. Refuse to let doubt become more familiar than faith. Walk through each day with the quiet confidence that what you have accepted internally is already moving toward expression. You do not need to announce your future. You only need to live from it. Keep it quiet. Keep it sacred. Keep believing. And one day, what was once only a feeling within you will stand before you as undeniable reality. The desire you have been nurturing is closer than you think. Remain faithful to it and let reality catch up to your assumption. Here's a powerful Tharsis introduction, conclusion, and thank you message for your speech video. Fate Puwafulint. What if I told you that one of the biggest reasons people delay their desires is because they talk about them too much? Most people think sharing their dreams will make them stronger. They believe announcing their plans will bring them closer to success. But often, the opposite happens. The moment a desire is exposed to doubt, criticism, or the need for approval, its power begins to weaken in your mind. There is a quiet power that very few people understand. It is the power of knowing without needing proof. The power of believing without needing validation. The power of carrying a vision so deeply within yourself that no outside opinion can shake it. Every great transformation begins in the unseen. Before a building appears, it exists in the mind. Before a tree breaks through the ground, it develops roots in darkness. Before your desire becomes a visible fact, it must first become a living reality within your consciousness. Today, we are going to explore why silence is one of the greatest allies of manifestation, why protecting your vision matters, and how keeping your desire sacred can accelerate its appearance in ways you never imagined. So stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover could completely change the way you approach your dreams. As we come to the end of this message, remember this simple truth: your desire does not need the world's permission to become real. The moment you accept it within yourself, the creative process begins, not when others believe in it, not when circumstances improve, not when evidence appears. It begins the moment you assume it is already yours. Stop measuring your progress by what you see today. The unseen always comes first. Every visible result was once an invisible assumption held faithfully in the mind of someone who refused to give up. Protect your vision. Guard your inner conversations. Refuse to let doubt become more familiar than faith. Walk through each day with the quiet confidence that what you have accepted internally is already moving toward expression. You do not need to announce your future. You only need to live from it. Keep it quiet. Keep it sacred. Keep believing. And one day, what was once only a feeling within you will stand before you as undeniable reality. The desire you have been nurturing is closer than you think. Remain faithful to it, and let reality catch up to your assumption. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to reflect on the desire you are carrying within your heart. Hold it gently. trust it completely. And remember, the less you seek validation from the outside world, the more power you retain within yourself. If you enjoyed this message, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may need this reminder today. Leave a comment below with the words, "I trust the unseen." Thank you for watching, and until next time, continue to live from the end, remain faithful to your vision, and watch how beautifully life responds. Take care, and I'll see you in the next